Yarg, it be Webs here with another Hearthstone deck. So let's get into the games. Going into turn 2, we have a few options. Either use our hero power or play our Raider. Raider is probably the more safer option, but we go with the hero power instead. Try to greet out the Raider's battle cry. They buff up their minion a little bit. Would have been helpful to actually have had a minion out last turn. We played the cargo rider that we drew into because it's a good pirate and helps our survivability a little bit. And now we just wait for the opponent to make a decision of what they're going to do. They buff up the minions in their hand, which is going to start becoming frightening. I actually ran into a bunch of hand buff paladin, which is why after this game in particular I started running Brawl. Or I was using Ranker, but it didn't actually board wipe the big minions that hand buff paladin would have consistently. Play the legendary from the last set, which reduces the cost of their buff cards probably in hand, and along with their other spells. Here we probably need to get rid of that minion as quick as possible. We'll choose the doctor to do such a thing, and then tack for face. A 2/2 isn't actually that worrying, but what it causes him to draw into could make it worrying. They buff up their minion, that's getting a little bit more frightening. Hero power. Still doing fine. Here we play a pirate to complete the next step, and then we play another pirate. Get up further along with the step. And then we can complete the next step of our quest. For the start of this turn, we drew into Ranker, which I realized during this game that it was not going to help out with this matchup. And for the matchups where I thought it would help out, it made actually little to no sense to use it instead of using Brawl, because it would have still been a dead card. Ranker helps a little bit more than Brawl in like a quest mage game, but then you'd have to nuke your own board, and that kind of defeats the purpose of trying to survive an extra turn. Their board is definitely getting a lot more frightening at this point. And we draw into Cargo Guard, which is great because we can complete our quest. And then next turn we can play our captain and get the Juggernaut. And to be honest, we actually, health-wise, have a better advantage than they do. They just have a lot more in their hand and better board presence. And High Lord War Dragon is not something that we actually were hoping they'd have. This was also before the nerfs went live, so instead of that being a 2-cost card, a 1-cost card, which is frightening. Basically, next turn we'll be able to play our captain and then play Bulwark of Astronaut, just to survive an extra turn and hopefully generate enough damage to face. In that extra turn that we have. Because they only have 3 minions on the board, there's no point in saving the 4th charge of the Bulwark, since Paladin doesn't really have any types of direct damage to face anymore. They continue buffing up their minions, which gets even more and more frightening. Clearing the board is probably the best decision they could make. But they leave our 3/3 up. And then they give their minions Wind Fury, which beats the whole purpose of using the Bulwark. And because they have Wind Fury, and I have no easy way to deal with all those minions, we basically just lose the game. We can use the Rush to kill their Battle Master, which is our best case scenario. But they still have enough damage on board to kill the rest of our minions. We draw into a taunt, which is great for us. Gives us a little bit more survivability for this turn. Then we just go face. And they have the second Battleground Master, which means we lose the game. Alright, let's get into game 2 versus Warlock. We're going to mulligan away Cutting Class since we don't have a weapon in our starting hand. Get a Shiver their Timbers instead. The opponent's going to take a long period of time to choose their mulligan. Their Quest Warlock, which gives us a good idea of how to play this game. I'd honestly kind of be shocked if it was anything but Quest Warlock. They're going to play their Bloodbound Imp. We can get rid of this turn by playing the 1-cost Pirate and then Shiver Me Timbers. The opponent's taking their sweet time making any decision. They play Backfire, triggering their quest a little bit. We draw into Bulwark of Azeroth, which is actually a pretty good card for later game. And then we coin out our Sword Eater. Bulwark will allow us to skip one of their big push turns whenever they complete their quest, and hopefully allow us to win the game. We're in a pretty good position here. Play a Flame Imp. Triggers their quest. Then they play a Bloodbound Imp and a Tour Guide to have a wide board. We draw into a Cargo Guard. Play the Scamp to draw into another Pirate and then a Raider to buff it up, which draws us into another Raider. Here we clear the Bloodbound Imp again, just so they can't complete the quest next turn. They buff up their Flame Imp in order to kill our taunt and to heal themselves a little bit. They kill another one of our minions with Drain Soul, which is fine. We'll play the Scythe and then play our second Raider. And then we hope the Questline triggers into your 3-4, which it does, so we don't have to attack that. We're almost done with their quest. And here they're going to make a big push to complete their quest. They'll get Raised Dead. They'll use Raised Dead here. Probably getting back some imps. Probably a Drained Soul. Hero Power completing the second step of their quest line. Still doing alright. They play their Bloodbound Imp they got back off of Raised Dead. Here we take the Overlord in order to buff up our cargo guards. To make them harder for the opponent to get rid of them. And then we clear out their board. Next turn we'll be able to heal for 6, then complete our quest line. But this turn they'll probably be able to complete their quest line too. Or they'll just make a wide board, which is also fine. They were one off of completing their quest line. Here we can attack with the Overlord first, in order to buff our minions back up again. Now we can play both of our pirates. And then attack for face and use stage dive. Drawing into Gargath, which I eventually ended up cutting out of the decks, just to be more consistent with the pirate draw off of stage dive. No matter what, they'll be able to complete their quest this turn. Which is fine, because we can just use Bulwark and our quest reward next turn and still have an extra turn to win. Here they'll start healing themselves up for a bunch. Here we'll attack for face, bring them down to 5, play Captain, get the Juggernaut, and then play our Bulwark. This is actually a perfect example of why to include Bulwark in this deck, because it will delay their big combo turn and allow you to live for an extra amount of time. Because right here we would have took 8 damage, but instead we just take 1 damage. And then here we would have also taken 3 damage and 2 damage. They were probably hoping to dig into some big damage, but they don't have enough mana to support that. And we just win the game when they pass the turn back. Alright, now that we're through the games, let's discuss how well the deck did. In the 18 games that I played, it had a 69% win rate, which was really impressive for it being a Warrior Questline deck. The Warrior Questline is a lot better than most people are making it out to be. It's definitely not the best, and it's not the worst questline that was added in Stormwind. Since we know that the mini set is probably going to be set in Deadmines, and that the Juggernaut itself actually comes from the Deadmines, we know that there'll probably be some more pirate support in the mini set, which is good news for this deck, since the majority of this deck's issue is the weapons and pirate pools that are currently in standard are actually not the best. There's a lot of really weak weapons that you can get off of this, and there's some pirates that you just aren't good because they're battle cry units. If the deck had some other type of non-battle cry pirate that it could run into when it randomly generates a pirate, then it would be a lot better off than it already is. Some other cards that I included in this deck because of survivability issues or certain matchups were a Bulwark of Azeroth, which allowed you to survive against Questline Mage and Questline Warlock, as it allows you to just ignore one of their big push turns when you get to go face with a bunch of pirates the next turn. The other card that I included that's kind of a bit weird for the deck is 2 Brawls to try to counteract and buff Paladin, which is one of the deck's worst matchups. There was no easy way for the deck to get rid of a bunch of big minions, so best way to do it is to use Brawl. I had originally used Rancor instead, but that doesn't solve the issues that the deck was already having. Harbor Scamp is actually one of the better feeling pirates since it adds consistencies to the deck, and Argo Guard adds extra survivability, so it feels really nice too. The Stormwind Freeloader feels kinda meh to use, but you need a critical mass of pirates. So that and Bloodsail Raider, even if they felt kinda bad to use most of the time, were included in the deck just in order to get that critical mass that you need. I thought about including some cards such as Ringmaster Watley, Amalgamation, or the Circus Thresher, but all of those cards are 5-cost cards, and the deck already runs a good number of high-cost cards. And I didn't want to lower the consistency of things like Stage Dive into a pirate, or the consistency of triggering the quest itself, since that's the main theme of the deck. Overall, I would say this is a safe deck to craft if you want to mess around with the Warrior questline. There's many ways to craft this deck, such as a control variant or a mid-range variant, but I would say the more mid-range variant is probably the better option, just given the fact that control kinda is dead in the current United in Stormwind metagame. So if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. So, but until next time, bye bye.